Hey guys, so I'm just going to be doing my Sunday market breakdown. Just thought I'd share it with everyone as well. So essentially, going to jump straight into it. So this is the DXY, and essentially, what I'm looking at is two things. Right now, the Dixie has been moving up impulsively, in my opinion. Obviously, on the lower time frames, we've been moving up in a very corrective manner. So if we are looking at taking this, or myself, definitely I'm looking down for a push down and a flag. Now, obviously, this is on the weekly channel, and we can still have a lot of trades on the way up here. We definitely have opportunity within here. There's opportunity in the flags, in these corrections, and so forth. Now, what I'm actually looking at is potentially this, obviously trickling its way up, so catching each and every momentum on the way up, but being fully aware that we can break through impulsively, create a flag and sell off. Doesn't have to be as big as this. That's just for demonstration purposes, but definitely I'm looking for something very, very clean, like push out, flag, and we're off. And I think that's definitely enough for it to sell off. But I think at the moment, how price is moving is not really the sort of price action that I would just sell. I think, price can just definitely just keep trickling up and then eventually at one point just sell off. And, I think being in that sell is more valuable than just trying to jump into any old trade, because there's plenty of opportunity and there's an abundance of opportunity to be taken. But if the Dixie's moving up, that really paints the picture for a lot of the other pairs out there. So just being fully aware of that, and I think the DXY is going to be an amazing pair to be trading. So how I'd be looking to take this, obviously, is just basically being aware on how we're approaching this trend. And if we are approaching in a corrective manner, then knowing that we could basically just continue back up. So keeping that aware, looking out for strong impulses, and then what follows. Next one I've got is Aussie CAD. Aussie CAD is pretty dope. I really like how we've basically broken this sort of level off the most recent low. We did come around with an arc, but we broke it impulsively. So obviously nothing really says that this is the low for it to go back up higher. However, these arcs are quite powerful with Aussie CAD. However, at this point, we did break impulsively, and it looks like we are forming some continuation now. What I would ideally be looking for, and most probably we might probably sell off at this point, but I would most likely want to be looking for a push back up and then us to sell. I think being more on the safer side with this. Continuation to the downside would be great. However, we can always pull back up. So if I was to get into this trade, I think a trade like this would be a little bit more rewarding in my eyes, only because the risk reward would be more entertaining than taking a trade somewhere down there. At the moment, I would have to wait for more structure if it was to break lower. So if I take a trade in over here, and let's just say that we pulled in here, created a small flag, let's say 18 pips, could even be more. To the low, I've got around about 4%, and then if it keeps going, there's definitely a few more percent to be made. So I think that's quite interesting in my eyes, and I think that would definitely be a trade I would like to be involved in, because usually Aussie CAD can be quite impulsive when it is moving closer to these lows. When it is coming to a target zone, it does just tend to just drop off. I mean, I think we are weeks away from that, but we can move impulsively away from where we are now, and that's a 33% position. It's not bad at all. The next one I'll be looking at is Aussie New Zealand. Aussie New Zealand is also really cool. What I really do like about Aussie New Zealand is that, and as well with Aussie CAD and a few other Aussie pairs, we are tying in for these shorts. So if these do play out, they might be very, very rewarding. Now, what I'm currently looking at is that price is come to this override zone. We've had a rejection. Doesn't mean we will have to reject here, but there's a high probability that because we've impulsed away on the daily as well, we could be forming a nice little correction here for a head and shoulders. This being the left shoulder, head, and then the right shoulder over here, and then forming this nice little head and shoulder. Obviously, it would be nice if the right protrudes the left. and then we get something like this. Nice little 1, 2, 3 structure. It's not always the cleanest, but you know, it might even be similar to the one we have on the left. And if we do get something like that, that's completely fine as well. You know, but just being aware that we could go from the left shoulder over here. And then, you know, if we go from the left shoulder, that'll be pretty good because it gives us more context and more weight to this trade, so another confluence to stack in our favor. I'm really excited about this position, actually, to be honest. Just have to really wait out the structure. I think, to be honest, given how this pair has been, I think, you know, looking at this sort of correction over here, this formed in roughly around about 13 days. So, you know, I am going to be a bit patient with this. I'm not going to really, you know, expect this to just pop out and happen straight away, but we could see, you know, some sort of stronger impulse. So this could happen a lot quicker than we think, but I'm definitely going to keep it on watch, because if we do break through this and you know, we start creating continuation down here, this might be something of interest to myself as well. But I don't think a smaller flag like that is really going to play all of that. I think we are definitely going to be looking at something a little bit larger. So just staying on the ball with this, and then going to look to take that to the downside. So that's something to look forward to. And yeah, that's it for Aussie New Zealand. So we have EuroCAD. EuroCAD is one that I'm quite excited about as well. I think it's nice that we've come to this override, we've rejected, and the structure on this has actually been really nice. I think, you know, how price has moved has been quite structurally rewarding. So we've basically moved down with impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction to the low, forming a reversal now. This could play out two ways. We could be looking at a larger flag towards the downside here. So, you know, just being aware that this is another more significant low, but we can still pull back from here and create something a lot deeper. So, you know, by the time we actually get to that low, we could create something, you know, quite large like this. And I think there's a lot of reward to be made in this, especially right now, because thinking about where we are in the run, if we're creating something like that and then we're trading into, you know, something like this, then, you know, I think personally I would be more inclined to want to be in a trade down here, because the risk reward to here will be exponential, whereas once we get to a sell over here, the sell back down here will also be exponential, so we can really ride this out. However, you know, it will take a bit of time for this to really play out, and I think, you know, letting it materialize is probably the best thing. Being aware that we do have most recent highs as well, so I will be aware to mark on these inflection points when taking this, because, you know, this sort of zone here could form as a sort of falcon flag sort of feel to it. You know, there's many things that can really pop up, but what I'm really looking for is a sort of flag in this area here. What's nice is we broke out of this, so we didn't continue, we didn't go impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, and you know, form continuation and onwards. We actually just reversed here, and now we might be creating continuation like a few other GBP pairs. I don't think that we might see a third touch. I think we might just impulse away and then form another correction, and if we do form another correction, you know, I would be inclined to look for something maybe around about here, which I think would be more so a little bit more better in terms of risk reward now, because I don't want to just jump into a trade in this zone here for price to just kind of drop out again on me. So I want to more so be in a better placed position, and I think a better placed position may potentially be on a second bottom here if we do see a level of rejection, or if we do break above this, then at least we can break above some sort of zone here, because I don't want to take a flag on that high and then basically be caught into something like that, and then price just carries on creating a larger flag. So just need to be aware of many of the different variations, but I think at the moment, you know, this would be the play for me. Euro USD. This is also a pretty nice pair, to be honest. Running like the Dixie, we are moving in this sort of very corrective, trickling momentum, but in a form of an impulse, just very corrective. I do quite like how it's moving because there's a lot of structure in here. And after analyzing this in some depth, there's so much opportunity in these sort of runs, and it's something that I think a lot of the time you can be put off by it, but really and truly, if you understood how um, you know price is moving and the structure of it and where it's going, you can really capitalize and actually understand that there's an abundance of opportunity inside here, and you're not just trading in the traditional angle like this. You're actually trading in a sideways angle like that. So still a massive abundance of opportunity in there. Just doesn't feel like it's going to move as quick as it does, but when it impulses down, you can really see that these sort of price points are not really that bad at all, because it really impulses away and there's no sign of it coming back. And if there was a sign of it coming back, and for example, you got into trades over here, you would basically know when, and your management would be on point because you'd basically be managing above these. So keeping it quite simple as well, definitely being aware that you're going to keep evolving this if price keeps moving correctively. But if there is a reversal, definitely looking for a push out, clear push out and a flag, and then continuation to potentially fill this. Or definitely, if we are corrective, I don't want to neglect the fact that I could still get short. So there's definitely so much opportunity here. Just have to be patient and wait for that. But if I am taking this short, I will be looking at it like this. So I will essentially be looking at some point like this, and then for it to line up with this ever so much, and then I'm not worried too much about the angle, but I'm looking for either this point or this point, and then price to just essentially just create a 1 2 3 for me to enter the market. Now how we get there is very important, because what I don't want is for price to impulse here and then take a short. I would really like to see this corrective leg move like this and go short, but I'm not really banking on the trade being all the way up here. I'm also looking at it perhaps potentially just breaking a little bit above this, or even coming to the override and then dropping off, so having a near miss to that high but coming to that override and then basically having the trade here. So keeping it quite simple as well. That would more so be the trade I'm looking for. I wouldn't take it on a risk entry. I'd be looking for a reduced risk entry, but yeah, awesome. The next one I'll be looking at is GBP AUD. Once again, I really do like how GBP AUD is performing at the moment. We have been pretty corrective during this whole period here, so I'm not surprised that we are basically creating either a larger correction or moving to the upside. We didn't quite get to this low, so we did have a near miss. However, we didn't really need to get to that low. Obviously, looking at it from the daily time frame, we've moved up, strong impulse. We've broken out of this trend. We've created a level of a correction over here, and within this correction, it's not the cleanest, but it's definitely still correction, and now we're still moving to the upside. So if I was to be looking for a trade here, I'd be keeping it quite simple. I'd be looking for something on the 4-hour chart, of course, but I'd be looking for a flag ever so simple like this, being completely aware that we're trading into this. Obviously this is just a inflection point, but it could form as the top of this range. So if I do get that bottom before we get to that top, I may be inclined to want to take that trade. So essentially what I'd be looking for is price perhaps not even reaching here, but let's say it got to the top, came to the bottom, and then I saw a rejection over here. I would basically be looking at that, because the risk reward on that would be pretty good, to be honest. And let's just say that, we jump into a trade over here and we caught the trade somewhere around about here. It's about roughly around about here. I would say around about a 20-21 pip stop loss is not too bad as well with the retrace of the 1 hour. Then a 12% there, and then obviously to the high, we've got 15%. But the good thing about it is, obviously, because we're backed by impulse correction continuation, we will be in the continuation phase, and obviously the correction may be a little, well, correction into correction, but we may potentially see this go even higher. So if it does impulse and carry on, then it basically may move up to here, which is, a 66% position over quite a period of time. However, being fully aware that we could create something like this, which once again could be looked at in a few ways. But if we do create some sort of ascending here, it doesn't mean that I would get out of my short immediately, but I'll be aware that we could pull back down. So I think more so looking at the angle and looking at the context of how this pair is currently moving, this may be a potentially rewarding position. So that's one of the reasons why I've got GA on watch. The next one I've got on watch is GBP USD. GBP USD is also very nice, a little bit nicer than GA in my opinion. Only for the pure reason that we actually did break impulsively and we pulled back. So what we can see over here is that this was the most recent low, and then obviously from 1985 we had this low here as well, which we actually broke and created a new low. Because of that, obviously, I wouldn't say that it's for any other reason that we've just basically caught people out on the wrong side. People are thinking that, the pound's selling off, perhaps maybe they're backing it with whatever news has come out, the Queen's passing, whatever the situation might be. And, I think a lot of the time that just creates unnecessary fear in the market. Now, looking at the most relevant piece of data, which is the most recent low, how have we actually broken that? Well, even though we did break it impulsively, we came back with an impulse, right? Now, we've come back with an impulse, but we started forming some level of impulse correction. Now, the next thing I'll be looking for is that continuation. And if we do get a continuation from this zone, I believe that could be very financially rewarding, and potentially that could be something that could, basically be a very good position to hold for quite some time. So essentially what I'm looking for right now is, what I was originally looking at was price filling this to create a larger flag, but I was originally looking at a 2-touch flag. I just think we're too low in structure for us to be moving over here before we go. I think we could potentially be doing that, but nevertheless we can create a 3-touch over here. Even in expanding, there's a few things on the table that I'll definitely be aware of. Essentially, I think more so what I'm going to really be looking at and being aware of is this piece of data here, and then I'll remove that line there for simplicity, and then I will essentially be taking this piece of data here and then just saying, okay, cool, let's see how we create this middle section. And if this middle section ends up being, some level of whatever corrective, and then we move up like this, and then we come back down, great, I'll be in for a fiery position, and I think that will be a massively great position to be taken. I wouldn't be too concerned about a 3rd touch over here. I'll be more inclined to take a position over here, because from this point to this point, there's definitely at least 3% to be managed, and then if we do go on, we can, we can definitely be managing it further. But if it does start to come down, then I believe we could probably be at least locking in 1.5% there. So we just have to wait, be on our management game, be more cautious, and I think GBP USD would be very financially rewarding if it plays out. So the next one I have on watch is New Zealand CAD, and I'm keeping this one quite simple as well. I'm looking at this as a potential inflection point. It doesn't really hold a huge amount of weight or context to this trade, just because of how this particular pair moves. But if we do break this, we'll be in for a pretty good run, I believe, up till about here. So, obviously, price can reverse at any point, create larger flags and whatnot. But how price moves is actually quite interesting. New Zealand CAD as a pair, when it sells off, it really does commit. And I think, these are the sort of runs that, for somebody who's wants to be in a bear market, these are the sort of bear markets I'd ideally want to be in. So one of the reasons why I think New Zealand CAD definitely should be one to be watched is because these shorting opportunities are pretty nice, to be honest. Once you get in them, they start to seem to rally, but in a very corrective rally, but a lot of structure in there as well. So something that I do like about this is that we are at a low, creating a potential expanding, but really and truly, this doesn't have to be the low. This could just be a point of inflection, but it doesn't have to be the low. So right now I'm just looking at this potentially trickling a little bit higher, creating some sort of uh, maybe even a running channel to the high here, but then essentially we might even see a flag inside here. And if we do see a flag, one of the things that I would be looking at, and I probably wouldn't take a position just because of how we impulse and create this very messy continuation, but we could potentially come up here, come back down, and then come up to this point. And then if we start selling, I might be inclined to want to take that. And I think that's the gameplay that I'm really looking for now. The question is, how soon could we see that? And I think for that reason, I think this is one of the reasons why I might potentially move this off my watch list and into my wildcards. Only because I don't think that it might shape up in time this week, but it's definitely one that I'll keep on my watch list because of how volatile the markets can become. So it's definitely one that I'm going to be looking at. Right, so Euro AUD. Once again, this one is also moved up pretty impulsively. However, there is a confluence area over here where price can still just sell off from here, but I think how we've moved is impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse, correction, and now this correction is moving into this correction now. Originally, I was basically looking at taking a short from here to sort of this zone here and the low over here, and then just seeing how how we can basically get there. But I think at the moment how price is moving is not really the sort of price action that I want to get involved in. There was definitely potentially a sort of trap over here where we created a pin bar at the top here of this impulsive leg, but because we've moved this way impulsively, that one candle was not enough confirmation with this structure. I think this is the daily chart. Looking at it on the 4 hour as well, we are still moving up like this, and I think it definitely isn't the sort of price action that I want to just get involved in. I want to see something impulsively break this, create me a nice little flag, and then I want to take this short. And I think that is a trade that I would be more inclined to want to take, opposed to just getting involved on this impulsive action, something like this, which I think can easily trap you and make you think that you're inside a nice trade, but really and truly you're just in another piece of price. So I would still hold that bias of looking for an impulse and correction back into here. So if at any point we do, for example, impulse back in here and create a flag, that would be great. Obviously, looking at how price is right now, I don't think it's one that I'm just going to be eyeing up and waiting. I think if this is going to go, we could have two things. We could either push up now, create some sort of continuation over here, and then go up higher, or we could essentially be looking at this just channeling, and then just keep evolving it, and then we could just basically just keep moving in here and then just keep making our way higher and higher like we're seeing with a few other pairs. So just going to stay quite patient with this one, but really and truly the push down and the flag, that's the solid trade I really want. So that's it for Euro AUD. Euro Swiss. Okay, so Euro Swiss is definitely one that I'm going to be keeping on my wild cards. I think you know, it definitely has some potential as well, like a few of the Euro pairs and GBP pairs we've seen. You know, we've started breaking these lows and pulling back up. Now, how we broke this low is actually really important. I think, you know, we did come down very, very corrective, but with a lot of structure, so impulse, correction, correction, impulse, correction, and so forth, continuation. And you know, now we've really impulsed back down here, but what we're doing at the bottom over here is we're creating some sort of depth of correction, which personally, you know, it could do two things. You know, we could essentially see something a little bit larger, which I don't really think is the gameplay here. I think what we might see is not the cleanest, but we might see. Originally, I was thinking that we might see a head and shoulders, so inverse head, and then right shoulder, and so forth. But at the moment, it's looking like, you know, we could see a flag like this, and then we can go. And really and truly, I think something like this would be a nice trade to be taken to the upside. So looking for a trade, maybe push up and a small flag over here could be a go-to. And I think a trade like that could potentially, let's say it was about a 30 pip stop loss, reduce risk entry. You know, even to this high here, you're looking at roughly around about 5%. And then looking at other inflection points, another 16. And then if we do, you know, somehow make our way all the way back up here, you know, could even be a 26% position with a lot of potential for it to keep going. So, you know, I think this could be a start of something huge, but we just need to be patient and just see how it develops. So I'd be really looking for some sort of larger flag over here for it to push higher. But if we did push up higher and we didn't give us that flag, then I would essentially be looking for it to break the most previous high over here, and break above this sort of zone here. And then if we break above that, create a flag here, and then with that flag we go, and then the trade will probably be in here somewhere for us to go up higher. So I'd definitely still stay patient with that, but that's something I'm quite excited about. The next one I have is Euro Yen. Euro Yen is definitely one that I'm not too sure about, I'll be honest with you, but it's definitely one that I've been watching. I'm probably not going to take a trade on it, but I'm just going to keep it on here to monitor, only for the pure basis that, you know, I think I've got a lot to learn from yen pairs. My strike rate on it isn't as high as I would like it to be, so it's something that I think when there's price action happening, I'd like to analyze it in a live market condition and just get used to it. But just looking at how price has broken this inflection point over here to the left, we've basically broken it, and we are creating some level of structure. So if we look at it on a bit of a higher time frame, we moved up impulse correction, continuation to correction onto the high. Now, it's no coincidence, I think, that we are essentially moving like this towards this high over here. And I think this high over here is where we're moving to. I think we're just moving there in a very messy way. But once again, it doesn't really matter if that is the point or not. I think what actually matters is that how are we getting there? And I think at the moment, looking at it on a daily time frame, there isn't really the cleanest fully developed structure. I think we're going to have to cut inside of the pattern and just kind of you know, basically establish the angle. But at the moment, I'm not really trying to guess it. I just want to see us get to this point and then sell off, but that could be days away. So the real question is this the middle section to the high? And am I essentially, one second, let me just quickly grab the tool. Yeah, so am I essentially looking at something like this for it to go up higher? And if that's the gameplay, then essentially this could be it. This could be the middle flag to that high. And if this is the middle flag, I think that will be extremely financially rewarding. I think if this isn't, and it just keeps going, and then, you know, we've got this as an inflection point, which I'm not too concerned about that, because, you know, that is the point there. That's why I'll be basically looking at it. Otherwise, I'll be very honest, I wouldn't be looking at this pair until we break this low here. You know, I would really be looking for price to just reject, create a flag, and then I'll be in for the proper sell. And I think once the market has really revealed its cards, we're going to know, because at the moment we're so high up in structure and we're moving so corrective, and we're forming a messier version of this ascending. I think let's just be patient and wait and see how we get there. But if there is an opportunity for this larger flag to go to the upside, I'm going to take that. So I'm going to stay bullish with the euro yen. And obviously looking at a few of the other euro pairs, you know, it doesn't look like, you know, I think it doesn't look like the euros are slowing down at the moment. It just seems like we're just creating something a little bit more in depth, especially same with the GBP pairs. So that's something that I'm quite interested to see how it plays out, and yeah, we'll see how it ends up next week. The next one that I'll be looking at is GBP New Zealand dollar. This is one that I have been monitoring for some time, and I think it's definitely a really nice pair. I think there's a lot of opportunity within here. It's just not the cleanest of instruments. Now, what I do like about this pair is if we do analyze on the lower time frame, you know, we did have this crazy volatile wick, but it's no coincidence that we met with that low. You know, this low and this low is, you know, there was probably a lot of orders in here that were taken out, and then that buying pressure from down here was absolute. And now what have we done? It's no surprise that we've just continued pushing up. Obviously, I wouldn't have been crossing off the board that we would have come back down slowly and trickled, but you know, we did push up impulsively, and from here to here, I mean, obviously this can keep going. There's nowhere to really say that this is going to stop. So especially with the other GBP pairs all getting very bullish, I think that was a very good area to be entering the market, but extremely hard to probably catch in my opinion. Probably an entry in here, and another entries in here. You know, this larger flag, but it didn't really give us that low. It just kind of near missed it. So at the moment, I'm really looking for some sort of opportunity to get involved in this, but at the moment I'm not really seeing much opportunity at all. I want to see structure kind of develop a little bit further, but I want to get involved in GBP New Zealand dollar, because I definitely think that, you know, if this trade does run, it's going to be very, very financially rewarding. And I think looking for a trade for it to come back down here, for it to go up higher, that's definitely a proper trade I'm going to be looking for. So that's something I'm going to be keeping aware. Definitely looking at this as an inflection point. And you know, even if I was to take a trade from this low down here, and let's just say that it was a 15-minute flag, then or 1 hour flag, with a, let's just keep it a bit more realistic and say it's around about a 30 pip stop loss. You know, to that high, I'm looking at around about 25% if we do come back down here. And then if we don't, and we create, you know, a flag up here, that's not a problem at all. Because really and truly, I would be more so inclined to just want to be involved in this trade. So if the trade does end up not coming down here and then pushing up and giving me a flag, I would be looking for push up here, a flag as continuation, and then go to the upside. How clean it would be, I can't really tell, but I believe, you know, there'll be definitely some good trades there. I just think it won't be the cleanest of trades to trade, so you'd have to read between the lines. But you know, something like this in that area over here would be nice, but I think we are due for a pullback, so that push down, a flag, and off we go. And I think that is something that I'll be looking for. US dollar Swiss. Now, US dollar Swiss is pretty awesome. We basically moved up really nicely. What I do like about this pair is that, you know, we've basically come down here, corrected, pushed up impulsively, corrected again, and I think what we might see now is either price breaks this and pulls back down, creates something like a morning evening star, or we just kind of project from this 1 2 3. So this is definitely something that I'm just going to be keeping my eye on, this sort of zone here. Um, I'm more so inclined to just see how does price react over here, because if I zoom down to the 4-hour chart, there is some level of structure in here. I can see that there is I'm not really basing this as this is the point of where we're selling, but if we can break this impulsively and create that 90% rule, that might be something of interest to myself. Um, However, I'm more so looking at this as a range, and basically how does price react in this sort of area here? Because if price basically sells off here, creates a flag in there, and goes, that's going to be a monster off a run. And that's the sort of position that I would like to be in, to be honest, because that would create enough context for a larger flag to potentially, well, it could even reverse and come back down, or we could see it push back up. But this pair has been very corrective in this area here, and it would be no surprise if this pair was to just basically stay in here for a longer period of time. But if we do break, then continuation to the upside would definitely be on the table, and it will at least come to that override point there. So there's still a lot of opportunity in there. I would definitely look at something like a 3-touch, but not on this override zone here. I would look for push up, flag over here, then we go. But then just bearing in mind that what are you trading into, and you could be trading into something like this, and then that flag with no surprise ends up selling out. So that's something that I'd be very much aware of, and I would have to look for something that kind of kind of surpasses that ever so much, and then that's basically crossed off, and I don't really have that as a possibility. And then I'm looking at, okay, cool, this is the gameplay. We're now going up higher, and then within that I could probably find myself with a nice trade in there, perhaps maybe even on the outside or within inside of it. And even with a 28 pip stop loss, let's say, I've still got a 6.34, and then potentially even higher if we do break through this. Because what we've actually seen, and what we haven't seen for a while, is that price has actually started to turn around. Previously, we've just seen it trickling, and going sideways and just hovering in this area, and then we sold off, and now we started to push forward. And I don't believe that with the US dollar Dixie trickling, I think we might trickle to this point here, and then eventually just sell off from here. So I think that might potentially be the actual gameplay there, especially with how the US dollars are all playing out. But give it some time, and I'll definitely just keep that one on watch. The next one I have is US dollar yen. I really do think US dollar yen has some potential. It's just very unfortunate that I wasn't able to catch this trade, because the impulse on this was insane. Honestly, so much opportunity. I mean, I did catch some trades within here, but honestly, now looking at it in this point of view where strong impulse, correction, continuation, and I think looking at that, I mean, that's insane. UJ is insane, honestly. Like, this price action is one to be remembered for years, honestly. But you know what they say, like, it go as quick as it goes up, as quick as it comes down. So I'm not too concerned about UJ. I mean, there's probably many lessons to be learned in here. I think what I'm actually more excited about now is that where we are in structure. The reason why I've highlighted both of these override zones is because we've impulsed to this zone here. I don't think we're going to slow down. We're not showing any signs of slowing down, and especially with the Dixie as well, it's doing that trickling momentum. So if the Dixie is going to continue doing this and make its way to its high, I can probably potentially see USJ doing the same. And if US dollar yen does the same, and then we start selling off, oh, that's going to be insane, to get into a sell from up here. But really and truly, with how impulsive this has been, it's probably going to take some time. I think we're going to have to wait for some structure to develop, and there will be some trades in there, but this is what I'll be looking for really and truly. And I think that is the proper gameplay for me. And I think UJ is going to take a long time, maybe quicker than I think, but it's going to take a while for it to develop. And I could be looking at maybe the beginning of next year, maybe some point February next year, but until it's fully developed this sort of structure. However, between now and then, obviously, no understanding market direction, I think, there's definitely going to be some cool little flags in there. And also, it doesn't have to do that. Obviously, as we've impulsed to this point, we could just continue impulsing and just surprise us and just go. So, that's something that I'm going to be super laser locked on. And I think if I'm going to take a yen pair, it's definitely going to be UJ out of all of them. I'm just very excited. I mean, CJ had some really nice structure last week. NJ was showing some promising results, but UJ I think definitely has some massive potential. And I think now that we've breached above here, probably a little push higher, create a nice little flag over here, and then boom, we're off. And I think that's what I'm really looking for. So keeping it very simple. That is my watch list and my wildcards for next week. I will probably revisit it tonight and then tomorrow as well, and then Monday morning and then Wednesday and so forth. But once again, for now, this is what I'll be looking at, and I think these are the pairs. I don't think I would be taking positions on all of them, because I think right now is the point where I'm waiting for a lot of structures to develop. But there may be one good trade this week, maybe no trade at all, but I'm fully aware of that entering the market, and I think having that sort of hindsight before going into week is super beneficial. So yeah, thanks for watching.